Hi, or should I say namaste. My name is Abhivyakti, and I'm a 16-year-old who's only spent 4 years of her life living in her own country. This isn't a surprise. I'm sure a lot of people have experienced something similar to me. My whole life, my family has had to move around to different places. I've had to adapt to many different cultures, mainly the North American and European ones. I've had to move from the US to Russia, to India, to Italy, France, India again, Uzbekistan, and now I'm actually off to Denmark in a few days. And it wasn't always easy for me, as I was constantly trying to find my place in a foreign environment. It was like life throwing punches at you every few years. I remember once, in my primary years, my mom had packed me a school lunch. I don't remember what it was, but it was filled with delicious bites and pungent and spicy aromas. I ended up eating it at the end of the day, thinking that people would judge me for it being too smelly. As kids, we're less conscious about how we behave, but for me, it was the exact opposite. I needed them to see me as one of their own. At some point in Uzbekistan, I started questioning why I'm like this. Also because my parents started making remarks on my accent and why I don't prefer wearing traditional Indian clothing in public. Things did get better, but over the years, I did little things to feel accepted. With my desperate need to seek answers, I even asked God, aka Google, and typed in the little search bar, why do I feel awkward around my own culture? All the articles that came up were about feeling awkward around other cultures. That wasn't me. I couldn't find a single story relating to my own. I always felt more safe and comfortable around other cultures. For example, I never referred to my elder sister as Didi, which implies respect in India, which I rarely felt for her. In my current settings in school, siblings, elder or younger, are treated as friends and equals. And so when my parents would ask me to touch my sister's feet on festive occasions, the very thought amuses me to the least, and even brings up disgust. As a child who has grown up practically everywhere, surrounded by all kinds of media and people with different perspectives, my identity was constantly being shaped by everything around me. How I eat, what I dress like, what I act like, and more. There have been many instances in my life where I try to navigate through my own culture while embracing others. It's like an overload or my computer overheating. The more I experienced other cultures in my immediate setting, the more I found myself getting distant to my own. For example, I never felt the same enthusiasm in preparing myself for Diwali as compared to Halloween, which my friends participated in. And I seemed to lack connection with my extended family based on common experiences and knowledge we're all supposed to possess. I always felt I wasn't rooted enough in my culture. I mean, if I'm going to be honest with myself, it's going to be today that I have to admit I don't even know my own country's history in detail. For example, the great festival of Ganpati, which was celebrated in Mumbai, drawing large crowds, was actually started by a great leader named Tilak to instill cultural and religious nationalism during the independence movement. Another example is hair oiling. Though more accepted in society now, is a huge part of Indian culture to keep our hair strong and healthy. As soon as I started to grow up, I started to reject the idea of hair oiling, thinking that eventually, one day, someone would ask me, "Why is your hair so greasy?" Moreover, I got judged by my extended family for speaking broken Hindi, or not knowing Indian literature enough, or even being able to switch accents. Having an American accent as perceived on social media by Indians or even in the country can be seen as becoming westernized. A purposefully cultivated American accent can be seen as superficial. I have come to peace with the fact that this accent will stay. These things are inevitable, and that's okay. Recently on social media, I followed this influencer named Avni. She's British Indian, and she talks about this concept known as code switching. Code switching is when a person from an underrepresented group consciously or unconsciously changes their behavior, appearance, grammar, syntax, etc., to fit into the dominant culture. I've even picked up codes from my surrounding culture without knowing what my original code is supposed to be like. I think the way that I'm influenced by my friends and social media, I strive to become someone who's more socially acceptable, while at the same time, I feel guilt inside of me. We feel responsible for representing ourselves as per the expectations of our culture, while at the same time having to adapt to the culture that we grew up with. This gap becomes a gray area. This phenomenon is known as acculturation. It's the cultural modification of an individual by adapting or borrowing traits from people and other cultures around you to fit into the dominant culture. This can lead to confusion and doubt and essentially questioning our identity. According to the Journal of International Students, an estimate of 15 to 20% of international students experience acculturative-related stress or problems. And it almost behaved like a survival instinct for me. The way I represented myself in front of my own people versus others was totally different. And I couldn't find someone to connect to because my family and my parents have grown up their entire lives inside India, while I have grown up in a foreign environment. It's really different, so I couldn't find someone to connect to. It was brain-racking and hard for me. Which is why today I hope we can begin to break down and solve this issue. We believe in our minds that we must be fully fluent with and associate fully with the culture that we belong to, but it's not that simple. You see, when trying to adapt to other cultures, it almost feels like you lose some of your own. For me, it felt like the Indian strings attached to me were getting cut off, and I felt burdened by representing myself as per the expectations of my culture. There's no right answer to solving this problem. It's a journey which you or your child may go through without even realizing it. The most important thing is to not blame yourselves. Do not blame yourself if you or your child are drifting from their own culture. Instead, show them kindness and empathy and show them that they're accepted for who they are, no matter what two cultures that they're torn between. And to my friends who find themselves in a similar situation as me, you too should stop blaming yourselves. It's high time we empathize with each other, spread awareness of this predicament, and stop placing stereotypes on people associated with specific cultures. I may be Indian, but I am more than the culture that I was born into. Dhanyavad, thank you.